Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back with a new episode. And I got a great returning guest back on my Women in Football series. But before we get it, let's get it. Hit my music. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harding. Glad to be back once again with a new episode, NFL kickoff week. So I had to bring a heavy hitter back into the show in the sports betting market. And she's a Wager Talk owner, Kelly and Murray Show co-host, Splash Sports Commissioner, Westgate Vegas. I mean, she does a little bit of everything in the sports betting world. So one of my favorites in that space, but very busy woman, finally cracked her down. But welcome to the show, Kelly Stewart, KellyinVegas. Welcome back to the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Courtney, always a pleasure to try to find some time to come on one of my favorite shows. It's great to see you as always.
Yeah, it's good to see you as well. Like I said, we chat a lot off camera and, with emails, just trying to crack down time. We both were on some vacations and things like that. So, but I was so glad to get you right before the season starts. So, but how are you doing? How was your vacation? How's your summer been and all those things before we get into some football bets and Survivor?
Yeah, I started a new role over at Wager Talk, so I've been really busy trying to get all the video team ready for football season, right? It is an absolute beast to contain and to try to get everybody under wraps and get new shows launched as well as revamp old shows. So it's been a process. It was fun to go to Ireland, but that close to football season was a little stressful. I'm not going to lie. It was a great vacation, but I did have to work a lot of the time. And then obviously, my Kansas State Wildcats lost the game.
Yeah.
Not all was lost. Ireland was a beautiful country, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm sure. It looks like you did enjoy it. And as you said, right before football. And as your co-host John Murray would say, you go on a lot of trips. He says, and then everything too. And I know I'm sure you're planning other things as well. So some other trips coming up. So anything else you got coming up with trips and things like that?
Yeah, I have a few things in the hopper that happened before taking over this new role. I mean, I've always been an owner at Wager Talk, but primarily I was just hosting and then kind of having some creative ability. And now that I kind of help oversee, almost 20 people, it's a lot different of a role. But I did already have Aruba planned with Ariel Epstein for the first week of November. So that one's going to be a fun one for both of us. It's a free trip. She had some deal with Marriott. She said, you got to come. I'm like, I'm going to be stuck in our hotel room working the whole time.
Yeah.
And she said, well, hopefully the Wi-Fi is good enough down by the pool or the beach. So fingers crossed for us. Should be a great trip with one of my favorite people. And I got a couple Friday weddings. You know how I feel about football season weddings. So I got some Friday weddings. I don't think Friday really helps things, but people like to think it makes them feel better that they're not going to be coinciding with college football Saturday. Jokes on them. One of them's during the K-State Arizona game. So should be a fun one.
Yes. And you always have to find a way to sneak in a little bit of a peek of the game throughout these weddings. Like why would you have a wedding on football season? But that's how it is.
Your guess is as good as mine, Courtney. I think there's a reason why we have spring and summer, and that is for weddings.
Yeah, exactly. I got married in August. So yes, so that definitely away from football season and everything too. So, but like I said, glad to get you on. I know we don't have a lot of time, but you also got a new show with Bill Crackman as well. I saw that first episode, the Crackman, who's well known in those sports betting streets. So talk a little bit about that show before we get into Survivor and the picks and some strategy.
Crack's a busy guy. He's also a very well-known professional bettor. So when we brought him over to Wager Talk, he and I had talked like, okay, well, are we going to do something? What do you want to do from content perspective, right? Because he's got Wisecracks that he already had, which we brought to the Wager Talk Network, which was it's a great show. It's a very good look behind the Vegas counter, but it doesn't talk about gambling. And Crack will come on Wager Talk Today and things like that. But I wanted to just get a showcase crack, right? The guy carrying around $30,000 in his fanny pack on a Tuesday afternoon, right? And that's who he is. I've known him for a really long time, even before we filmed Action together. So it's really great to get back in the saddle. First episode, 20, 25 minutes. I just want to hang out, pick Crack's brain, see what his guys have in the hopper early in the week, right? That's the big thing. Professionals are betting Sunday night when the lines come out, Monday, Tuesday. Their bets are locked and loaded days before kickoff, as opposed to recreational bettors. So it was nice to kind of get a look from some of his futures bets. It's up right now on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. So I'm happy he and I agree on the Bears under. How about that?
Yeah. I enjoyed that show too. He said it's a quick show, 20, 25 minutes. Get to know him a little bit as well. You guys were feeding right off of each other, just your bets and things like that. So I'm looking forward to see how that show turns out. But let's get into some NFL Survivor picks and strategy. A lot of pools, and you got some actually pools as well in contests, and you're the contest queen, it seems like, now with the Survivors and with college and the NFL. But first question about NFL Survivor, it could be daunting to some who wants to get into it. What's a couple of key things that people should look for when they are picking their teams with NFL Survivor, like some strategies?
It really depends, right? So everybody's got a different risk threshold. Not everybody has $1,000 or $5,000 to fly to Vegas, hire a proxy, enter a contest, stay at a hotel room, get nice dinners, fly home. And so I partnered up with Splash. You mentioned being the contest queen. It's kind of funny because we started the proxy service back in 2015 in Vegas. We no longer have that, but I still am heavily involved in some of the Vegas contests, as well as now some of the ones that you can play from home. And that's what I really like about Splash. They bought Run Your Pool. They bought Office Football Pool. Everybody's played on those sites for years, right? The nice thing is they're all together. So I used to have to re-log back in. Did I place this? Did I not place this? And I would forget picks. And it was so frustrating because there was just too much going on. But now they're all in one place and it's got a red line through it, like you are missing picks. So back to the Survivor, I think that the nice thing is a site like that has so many contests, $5, $10, $150, $200, $500, $1,000, $5,000. It's got something for everybody, like Touchdown Survivor with Ariel that I'm doing. I'm not going to be that good at it. She's the player props girl. I like that we can have 15 entries so I can buy 6 or 7 of them because I'm going to need them to make it to like halfway through the season. That's just what we're going to need. As far as the traditional Survivor goes, I have some hard and fast rules my partners don't really love, but the reality is that I think you've got to break down the NFL season. I wish I could share my spreadsheet with you here on the screen, but I've got a Google sheet for every single Survivor contest that I'm in, right? If it's a $150 one on Splash, or it's a $1,000 one at Circa, it's a $5,000 one at Westgate. And I approach the season all the same. And then the reason why I keep them all separate is because I'm not going to have only the Eagles this week or only the Broncos. Very rarely am I going to go all in on one team because I have so many. Let's just say I only had one entry this week, just one Circa Survivor entry, $1,000 with my buddy CT. He says, hey, look, I know this is the week to use the Broncos. The whole world's going to use the Broncos. What do you think? And I said, hey, last year, 40% of the pool got knocked out early because of Joe Burrow, a guy who was 1-3 in week 1. Let's look at rookie quarterbacks on the road. Last year, my girlfriend Patty and I made it to Thanksgiving. I was very proud of her and I. And we started off with the Bucs. And I said, going against Jaden Daniels on the road in Tampa Bay with a good defense. Those are the things I'm looking for. And guess what? The Broncos provide that. Going against Cam Ward on the road against a stout Broncos defense, I think this has got to be the play. I don't want to think long, think wrong here. I don't want to get into the intricacies of why I don't want to play the Eagles, but I don't like playing divisional games if I can help. I definitely don't like playing road games. The whole world wants to bet against the Saints. I understand. Spencer Rattler, a whole new rebuild. There's so many problems going on in New Orleans. But are there enough that we want to take care Arizona on the road in New Orleans week 1? I feel like that's that play that's like everybody's trying to zig instead of zag with the Broncos. And I understand not wanting to be in the boat with everybody else when it sinks. But I also don't know if I'm ready to play the Cardinals on the road week 1. If you remember a couple years ago, the Giants almost took everybody out week 1 on the road versus the Cardinals. That happens all the time in the NFL. And so you've got to be really careful. I particularly do not take divisional road teams. I try to avoid, again, the division, but there's going to be weeks. This week, there's a lot of divisional games. Week 18, there's a lot of divisional games, so forth. There's also a lot of road spots where people just assume it's an easy layup. Please remember, last year, the Raiders went into Baltimore.
Yes.
And the whole world. You got to be really cautious here in saving some of these teams for later on the season because they don't have anything to play for. So when I start, Courtney, I'm mapping out top to bottom. I'm going through week by week. I'm putting in the spreads, what I think the games are going to be. And then every single week I have to adjust. Every single week, those lines are going to change. And I want to look back on week 7 and say, oh, wow, the Bills week 2 were a 10.5-point favorite. Now they're 13.5. Maybe this is the spot to be using the Bills instead of trying to save them for late in the season.
For sure. And shout out to the prop queen herself, Ariel Epstein, as well. I know that's one of your good friends and everything too. Like you said, she's all of the props. So it's good. And I'm glad you brought, some of the strategies in because as you said, a lot of people, they'll take the favor that you hear for weeks, especially the week 1. And I know from last year, like I said, a lot of at least 40% got knocked out because of either Cincinnati or anything like that. And I think last year I made it all the way. I think I made it to Thanksgiving also, maybe a little past it, Thanksgiving. I thought, oh man, I'm really, very close and everything too. I think the Texans going to end up losing later in the year. So like week 13 or 14, something like that. So I was very close as well. And I was going to ask one of the other questions was, what do you think is the biggest mistake you see people make when they approach the survivor pool, and how do you avoid that?
I think the biggest mistake is if you have multiple entries trying to go all in on one team early in the season. Now, later on in the season, you get a San Francisco as a 13.5-point favorite at home on Thursday night. I remember John Murray and I back a couple of years ago used them, got it out of the way, said, we're going to cheer for chaos on Sunday. Chaos ensued. Now, we didn't end up winning it anyway, but I do think there are times to zig when others zag. There's people that try to get too cute and get knocked out. I do think trying to dig deep and find somebody. CT Betts texted me this morning and said, do you think about the Rams? Rams went from 2.5 to 3 versus the Houston Texans. And I said, I bought into Matthew Stafford being hurt. Well, maybe he's not that hurt. You follow these narratives all the time in the NFL, Courtney, and you hear all these things about teams, who's good and who's bad. Guess what? Sometimes it's a load of BS. And then other times, don't forget, the Saints are probably still going to win 4 or 5 games this year. The Texans probably going to win 4 or 5 games this year. So you're looking to fade these teams. Cleveland, I like Cleveland week 1 already, +5.
Yeah.
People are going to take Cincinnati. I bet at least 10% of the pool take Cincinnati there at circa. I'm not going to. A road divisional favorite. Could they win that game? Sure. Cincinnati's much better team. Joe Flacco at home week 1. Ooh, makes my stomach turn. Again, those road favorites, particularly in the division, I think are the biggest mistakes people make.
Yeah, for sure. You said sometimes the favorites, a lot of people are on. You said Arizona. I'm trying to avoid them too. If you had to pick one team this week, is it Denver? Is it, I know they're being talked about a lot too as well, but are they the team that you think could, and they're at home, are they the team that we could zag from a heavy favorite Arizona team?
So John Ewing tweeted this morning. He works over at BetMGM. He said it was from Evan H. Abrams. Rookie quarterbacks, 28 of them have been taken with the number 1 pick since 1970. In their first start, 5-22-1 straight up, 8-20 against the spread. So obviously Cam Ward is making his debut in Denver.
Yes.
Come on. Listen, if I end up being 6, I guess so be it. I feel like at that point in time, I think a lot of people are overthinking this. I follow a couple different tracking sites for survivors. Survivor Atlas is one that I really like. They're projecting 32% of people to be on Denver, 24% to be on Arizona, 13% to be on Washington, 9% to be on Cincinnati, 9% to be on Philadelphia.
That's really good. It's good. That's good insight to know, because I'm thinking leaning Denver as one of my favorite picks, but as you said, 32%. So
for example, I think I've convinced my buddy Steven. Steven and I are in the splash $2.5 million guarantee. We got 6 entries. Okay, $150 each, $900. Said that's close enough to a dime, but now we got 6. I think we're gonna go 2 Broncos, to Philly. I may convince him to do 1 Rams.
Okay.
Maybe we do 1 Cardinals. Maybe we do 3 Philly. And if Philly gets knocked out Thursday night, and we got nobody to advance, not only is there dead money in the pool, but we can get back in. But on Saturday, on Friday or Saturday, you can buy back in. So there's some strategy there as well. Again, I don't want to take Philadelphia, but I'm wondering if getting that win early in the week, letting the chaos ensue again come Saturday, do I want to save Philly for week 15 against the Raiders? Not really. I mean, like I just said to you what happened last year. Like, the Raiders are going to win some game that they're not supposed to win. The parity in the NFL is significantly different than what it is in college football. College football's parity is actually getting smaller with the NIL, transfer portal, and so forth. But you get the idea. The coin term, any given Sunday, is for a reason.
It is, yes. Any given Sunday, every time. So, like you said, you have the spreadsheet and, with the analysis, things like that. How do you balance the statistical analysis and the data based handicapping with your own gut feeling and experience? Do you go with your gut sometimes? Like, well, I have my favorite team. Like, I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm not picking them against Dallas. As you said, it's a dicey game, divisional game at home. They get their banner and all that, and we've seen that with a lot of championship teams. They don't always
they lost a
play
ton of guys on defense. I'm actually concerned about them.
Yeah. There's some concern on defense. I think offensively they'll be fine. They brought 10 of the 11 starters back, but defensively that's a wait and see approach. But I think they should take care of Dallas. But it's a divisional game, and Dak Prescott plays very well against the Eagles.
Yes, he does.
Against the whole division, really, when he's healthy. So I think it's gonna be closer than people think. But do you go with your gut feeling, or you usually just stick with the statistical analysis mostly?
The thing about my gut is I should trust it a lot more. That's the real reality. The women's intuition, the gut. I should. I try to tune it out though, and only keep it from a numbers perspective. That is the best way to continue to become a better sports bettor. Yes, my gut might be right. Last year, my gut said, no, Chris, we're not playing the Saints on the road. I forget what week that was. The statistical analysis was there. It went against my rules. I didn't have a better option. That was the problem. When you get into weeks 12, 13, 14, and you make it through Thanksgiving somehow by the skin of your teeth, and then you go in and you're like, okay, I've got to make a decision for the next week, and you're down to 10 teams that you can lose. Not really. I think you get 15, but you've already eliminated half the teams you can use. And 5 or 6 are on your do not bet list, the Titans and the Browns and so forth. It gets really tough to try to go in and find a pick. And that's why I do like to map it out from a season-long perspective. Like, where do we want to use these teams? Crazy things happen. You mentioned the Cowboys. I would have loved to use the Cowboys a couple of years ago on Thanksgiving without Dak. You can't do it. You can't do it when injuries come in, and they're going to come in on every single team. Sometimes you get cluster injuries. You've got to put that team on the back shelf. So that's why I said my spreadsheet's ever evolving. Maybe I should trust my gut more. My gut says Denver's going to lose for what it's worth.
Oof. Yeah, that's
because I got this right behind me, and I'm kind of a cynical fan. Like, I got the Kansas State Wildcats, who have just been abysmal for the last 2 games, and the Denver Broncos, who haven't done anything for me since the Super Bowl. So since 10 years, we'll see. I try to keep my expectations of my teams very low. I think it's better for me that way. You live in more of a realistic, less fan perspective. But yeah, I think Denver should probably beat the Titans by 2 scores.
Okay. Yeah. Like you said, sometimes you gotta take our bias from our teams and then just use it in the statistical analysis that helps us try to win money. That's what, and have fun with it. All right, just got 2 more if I let you go. Trends that you have seen and how people play Survivor over the years. Has the rise of sports betting changed? Information changed how an average person approaches them?
So when I first did some Survivors, I just literally survived in advance. I didn't map it out. I think that the Vegas perspective has completely changed the game. The guys over at Circa sell the map that they put out in the gift shop, and people buy it every single year because I think it's like, hey, excuse me, have a little bit more thought out process, have a little bit more in-depth analysis behind your picks. You're putting out $1,000 over there.
Yeah.
Don't just go all crazy and just week by week. Yes, the name of the game is survive in advance, but you got to do more than that.
Yeah, you do. And I think too, and I also feel like, bless you. And I also feel that you said it is survive in advance, but you do have to have some research on that as well, to back it up, because you could just pick the best team. And if you're gonna go say, okay, Buffalo and Baltimore first week, and you think, okay, how am I gonna pick that? Avoid that. Avoid those two teams playing against each other, and then you could save Buffalo and Baltimore later in the year, just because you might like Buffalo and Baltimore, and they're like favorites in the AFC. That one of them's going to lose, so that's not Survivor at all.
Saving the best teams, I think, for their best spots is where you want to use it. Listen, I don't want to burn Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City, San Francisco. I don't want to burn any of them early. But again, there are better spots to use them than in, later in the season. Like I said, you could save the Eagles all you want. Let me look at my sheet real quick. You can save the Eagles all you want for week 15. I have them right now as a 10.5-point favorite. But Baltimore week 2, they'll be a 12.5-point favorite there. Yes, it is a divisional game. That is a little scary. Tampa Bay, I don't really want to burn that early, but week 3 is the best week to use them. Buffalo, week 4, they'll be 13.5-point favorites. That week, you have Detroit, 10.5-point favorites. I mean, eventually you got to kind of dig deep here and figure it out. You could say Baltimore for week 12, non-divisional game, probably the better spot to use them. Even week 16, they're a 9.5-point favorite. The problem is you've got to figure out when they're going to lose a game. What are they going to do and play that faltered game? You mentioned Ariel Epstein. She and I went to the Broncos Ravens game a few years back.
Yeah.
And I said, watch the Broncos win this game. I'd had a couple Irish coffees. It was freezing cold. We're sitting there right out of the gate. Broncos touchdown. She looks at me like, I hate you so much. They were 9.5-point favorites. I think if I remember correctly, either the Ravens scored late or they kicked a field goal late and the Broncos couldn't get anything going down the stretch, barely get the win. But this again is the NFL. So plan on teams when the best spot historically is for them, right? We know certain coaches have certain teams circled. Like you said, you're not going to be wasting Kansas City or the LA Chargers in Sao Paulo. I would completely avoid any international games. I lost with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers a few years ago against the New York Giants in London. They were up 3 scores at half. And they just didn't come back out at halftime. Yeah. Those types of games can be really frustrating. I think if you just immediately start taking those off your list, it gives you a shorter list to work with. And then you're not so engulfed in the overwhelming amount of teams to choose from.
Absolutely. All right. Last one. I'll let you go. From Survivor to just week 1, what type of bets are you looking into for week 1? It's week 1 such a crapshoot every year because you just don't know who's going to do what, and who's going to be good and everything. Sometimes it takes teams weeks before they really get it going. Just like the Eagles last year, it took them until their bye week 5. And they decided, we're going to run the football with Saquon Barkley. We do have him. And then they went on their run. So, but sometimes these first few weeks is like the team's preseasons. It's their preseason games. But what games or anything that you're looking at, what bets do you have for week 1?
You're absolutely right. There was another tweet, I think it was from John Ewing or maybe Ben Fox. And they said, hey, here's these quarterbacks week 1 historically in their career. Joe Burrow, 1-4, straight up week 1. What? And you want to lay it? No. You don't want to lay it on the road. I get it. The Browns suck. That's the whole narrative. Guess what? Joe Flacco is still a pretty decent quarterback, and he's been in that system now for over a year. Other teams, look at rookie quarterbacks going on the road. I mentioned Denver and why I like them in Survivor straight up, and I do think it's worth it in a teaser spot here for this team. I do think they'll win by more than a field goal. And that's where I'm looking at week 1. I know I do a show with Teddy Covers at Wager Talk. He said, I'm not teasing anything week 1. I'm like, what? There's so many great opportunities to tease week 1. So many good divisional matchups. I think Seattle's worth a teaser look week 1. I think the Eagles still very close to being in a teaser spot. If it's 9, it's not 8.5. You can. Divisional home favorites here. Teasing them down is scary. But divisional home dogs teasing them up, I love to see it. I know the Lions are not at home. Ariel and I had a discussion earlier on our show. I said, I'm not buying the Packer hype. You're going to give me over a touchdown with the better coach, with the better quarterback. I'm going to take Jared Goff, who, by the way, has never lost week 1 in his career.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. And it's good advice too for bettors. As you said, Teddy also said, "Don't blow your bankroll week 1."
Yeah. so show a little bit of discipline. You like a lot of games, decrease your bet size. Simple as that.
That's good. That's very good advice. So, Kelly, I could talk to you forever. I'm sure we could have went through so many different angles and things like that. But with time permitting, I always respect your time and really appreciate you coming on and giving some advice for Survivor. I got to make my picks tonight. Or tomorrow. I'll probably do it tomorrow morning. Get them in. Hopefully, we can win some money for sure. And best of luck to you. Thank you for everything you do and all the advice you have. And everything, but let everyone know where they can follow you, find your content. Like I said, you got a lot of different shows here and there, but where's the best place they can follow you and maybe ask some questions, things like that?
Yeah, of course. Kelly in Vegas. You can always find me on your social channels, and you can always find me on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Every single show I do is pretty much over there. It has been a really fun run, and I have really enjoyed being able to do this for a living, Courtney. I'm truly blessed, and I would never take that for granted. I always appreciate you having me on your show, get it out there to another new audience. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. And always wanted to highlight you and what you do. And you said you do such a tremendous things when it comes to, sports betting and things like that. So I listen to a lot of your shows and really follow you and everything too. So I appreciate our connection and everything too, and appreciate the time.
Thanks, Courtney.
All right. Thank you. You have a good one. Best of luck and go week 1. All right.
Have a great week.
You too. Thanks. All right. That was Kelly in Vegas. Appreciate her time and thank her for advice. If you're into sports betting, even fantasy football, whatever it is, week 1, she's one of the biggest names in sports betting. So Kelly in Vegas, follow her on all the platforms, wagertalk.com as well. She does shows almost every day. So she'll get you ready for the season as well. All right. Well, that's a wrap for the shows until Saturday, I believe. Yeah, Saturday. I think I got a couple of guests coming up. Just confirmed. So be on the lookout for the links there. So thanks to Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas. Follow the show on all platforms as well. Until next time, be on the lookout for more content and enjoy NFL week 1. Till next time, peace. God bless.